Okay, open your eyes, Jude said, putting her hands on Lexi's shoulders. Lexi drew in a deep breath and did as she was told. In front of her was a big mirror surrounded by tiny globe lights. For a split second, she saw a stranger, a girl with sleek, glossy black hair, layered now around her face, and perfectly arched eyebrows. Carefully applied violet eyeliner had enhanced her blue eyes, given her a smoky, sophisticated look, and blush highlighted her high cheekbones. She was almost afraid to smile, in case it was an illusion. Jude leaned closer. "You're beautiful." Lexi slipped out of the chair and turned around. "Thank you," she said, hugging Jude tightly. Later, on the ferry home, she and Mia sat in the back seat of the Escalade, with Jude in the driver's seat. Lexi kept sneaking looks at herself in the mirror. She wanted to believe it would make a difference somehow, this transformation, that Zach would finally look at her and think she was pretty. But she knew better. Tonight was not going to go well. Honestly, she couldn't fathom why he'd agreed to take her to the dance. Probably because Jude and Mia had pressured him mercilessly, and one thing was always true: Zach hated to disappoint his sister. If only Lexi hadn't almost kissed him, none of this would be a problem if she'd never turned to him that night, or if she'd told Mia the truth. If only, if only. It was a list that went on, and she'd reread it so many times in her mind that she felt sick to her stomach. It had been a week since the party, since the hilltop. Lexi had repeatedly intended to tell Mia the truth, but she hadn't. She couldn't. And now, for the first time, when she saw her best friend, Lexi felt like a liar. And every time she saw Zach, she ran like a track star. She was terrified that she'd ruined everything, that when her secret came out, she'd lose Mia's friendship and Jude's respect, everything that mattered to her. "I should have said no," Lexi muttered later as she and Mia bounded up the stairs at the Faraday house to get dressed. "This has disaster written all over it." "I don't get you," Mia said, closing the door behind them. "I really don't." Lexi immediately felt guilty. "Sorry, it'll be fun. I can't wait." She went to Mia's overflowing closet where both dresses hung between sheets of plastic. They dressed and studied themselves in the oval mirror by the desk. Only occasionally could Mia's black and white Converse high tops be seen under her hemline. "I think I look okay," Mia said, turning to Lexi. Her green eyes held worry. "Don't I? Will he think so?" "You look gorgeous. Tyler will—" A knock at the door interrupted them. There was a pause, then it opened. Jude stood there, holding a silver camera. "Tyler is here." Mia looked nervously at Lexi. "How do I look?" "Totally hot. He's lucky to have you." Mia threw her arms around Lexi and hugged her tightly. "Thank God you're with me. I don't know if I'd have the guts to go downstairs without you." Holding hands, they left the bedroom and walked down the big curving staircase. Zach and Tyler were in the living room, standing together, talking. Both were wearing blue suits. Zach's hair was still wet. The football game had just ended and he'd raced home to get ready. He looked up and saw Lexi. She saw the way he frowned as she came down the stairs. Her heart started beating so fast she felt lightheaded. Be cool, she thought. She'd say she was sorry right away. Laugh it off, that stupid near kiss. Maybe she'd say she'd been drunk and didn't remember any of it. Could she pull that off? As she neared him, Zach stepped forward, offering her a blue-tipped white carnation in a clear plastic box. "Thanks," she mumbled. "It's got like a rubber band on it. It goes on your wrist," he said. "Amanda says they're the best kind." "Thanks," she said again, not daring to look at him. He'd mentioned his girlfriend. She got the point. "Okay, picture time," Jude said. Miles came up beside her. "We'll need fingerprints from you, Tyler," he said. "Dad!" Mia shrieked, blushing. Lexi moved awkwardly into place beside Zach. He put an arm around her, but didn't pull her close. They stood like images from an Old West photograph, stiff and unsmiling. Flash. Click. The photographs went on and on, until finally Zach said, "No more, Dos Amigos, we're out of here." As they started for the door, Lexi pulled away from Zach. She stepped into the entryway, where she'd left a brown shopping bag by the table. Reaching inside, she pulled up a small green plastic container that held a potted purple petunia. "This is for you, Lexi," said to Jude, feeling her face grow hot. It was such a little gift. She'd found it on the half-price counter at the local nursery. It was probably totally the wrong thing, but it was all Lexi could afford. "I know you don't really need anything, but I looked and you don't have any petunias, so I thought, anyway, thanks for the dress." Jude smiled. "Thank you, Lexi." "Come on, Lexter," Mia said from the doorway. Lexi walked to the door with Jude and then followed Mia out to the Mustang. "1 o'clock curfew," Jude yelled from the doorway. Zach didn't seem to be listening. He walked on ahead to the Mustang, which was parked out front. He opened Lexi's door, but didn't wait for her to get in. Instead, he walked around to the driver's side. When Mia and Tyler were settled in the back seat, Lexi took her place beside Zach. He started up the car and cranked on the music. All the way to the high school, Mia and Tyler whispered together. Zach kept his eyes on the road. He seemed pissed off at Lexi, or at the fact that she was his date. She could hardly blame him. In the school lot, he parked close to the stairs, and the four of them merged into the colorful river of kids streaming into the gymnasium, which had been transformed into a tacky version of New Orleans, complete with streamers and fake moss. The Mardi Gras theme continued when they walked into the gym, where a chaperone handed them a handful of brightly colored bead necklaces. The song playing was "Hella Good," and the dance floor was overflowing. They got their pictures taken first, each couple alone, then the girls, then Mia and Zach. Lexi could see how stiff Zach was. Every girl in the senior class seemed to be watching them. No doubt Amanda had asked for a full report, and Zach wasn't going to do anything to hurt his girlfriend's feelings. He wouldn't even look at Lexi. Finally, he took her hand and led her out onto the dance floor. As they got there, the music changed, slowed. He took her in his arms. Lexi stared at his chest, tried to move with him and not step on his feet. Honestly, she had no idea how to dance, and she was so nervous she couldn't breathe. Finally, she looked up and found him staring down at her, his eyes unreadable. "I know you didn't want to take me to the dance, Zach. I'm sorry." "You don't know anything." "I'm sorry," was all she could think of to say. He grabbed her by the hand and pulled her through the crowd. She stumbled along behind him, trying to keep up, smiling at the people she pushed past, so it didn't seem weird that Zach was pulling her off the dance floor. He kept going, past the punch bowl and the row of parent-teacher chaperones, and through the big doors to the football field. There, everything was black and still. The stars overhead joined with a bright moon and set the goalposts aglow. Zach finally stopped. "Why did you try to kiss me?" "I didn't. I lost my balance. It was stupid." She sighed and looked up, immediately wishing she hadn't. "What if I wanted you to?" "Don't mess with me, Zach," she said. Her voice cracked, betraying her. She knew his reputation. He probably said things like this all the time. He went through girlfriends like she went through lip gloss. "Please." "Can I kiss you, Lex?" In her mind, she said no, but when Zach looked down at her, she shook her head, unable to find her voice. "If you're going to stop me," he said, pulling her close, "this would be the time." And then he was kissing her, and she was falling and flying, twisting into someone else, something else. When he finally drew back, he looked as pale and shaky as she felt, and she was glad of that, because she was crying. Crying? What an idiot. "Did I do something wrong?" "No." "So why are you crying?" "I don't know." "Zach!" Lexi heard Mia's voice, and she lurched away from Zach, wiping the stupid tears from her eyes. Mia ran up to them. "They're crowning the homecoming king and queen. You'd better get in there." "I don't give a shit about that. I'm talking to Lexi." "Go," Mia said. Zach looked at Lexi again, frowning. Then he walked off, headed for the gymnasium. "What were you two doing out here?" Mia asked. Lexi started walking toward the gym. She didn't dare look at her best friend. "You know me, I don't know jack about football." She winced. Another lie to her best friend. Who was she becoming? It was the last time that night she and Zach were alone together, until he walked her up to the front door of the mobile home, and even then, Mia was in the car, watching them. At her door, Lexi had no idea what to say to him. Everything felt off balance. She was like some prey animal, frozen with fear, her senses acute. The kiss had rocked her world, but had it even made a ripple in his? She stared down at her, his golden hair turned silver by the moonlight. She wanted to scream, "Say something!" but managed only a shaky smile. "Thanks for letting me be your sympathy date, Zach." "Don't say that," he said. "Curfew," Mia yelled from the car. "Mom will have a cow if we're late." Zach leaned down, kissed Lexi's cheek. It took all her effort not to respond, not to put her arms around him, but she just stood there, feeling his lips on her skin like a branding iron. She stood there a long time, long after they'd left. Then, finally, she went into her house and turned off the lights. Lexi didn't go to school on Monday. How could she face either Zach or Mia after what had happened? By Monday night, though, and he hadn't called, of course he hadn't, why would she think he would? Eva had threatened to make a doctor's appointment, something they definitely couldn't afford. So on Tuesday, Lexi went back to school. Out at the bus stop, she huddled under the narrow shelter's overhang, watching rain turn the world into a blue and green kaleidoscope. She would just be cool. She'd smile casually at Zach and keep walking, as if the kiss meant nothing. She wasn't a complete idiot. It had just been a kiss from a boy who kissed girls all the time. Lexi couldn't let it mean anything to her. At school, she easily avoided Zach. They hardly moved in the same social circles. But there was no way to avoid Mia. Their lives were too braided together. After the last bell, Mia walked Lexi to work. All the way downtown, Lexi kept a smile on her face as she listened to Mia's dance play-by-play. Again. But the word liar screamed through her mind over and over, and every time she looked at her best friend, she felt sick to her stomach. "We made out. Did I tell you that?" "Only about 1,000,000 times." Lexi stopped in front of Amore, where a sweet, vanilla-scented air enveloped them. She meant to just say later and go inside, but instead she paused. "What was it like?" "At first I thought his tongue was kind of slippery and gross, but I got used to it." "Did you cry?" "Cry?" Mia looked confused, then nervous. "Should I have cried?" Shrug. What do I know about kissing? Mia frowned at Lexi. "You're acting weird. Did something happen at the dance?" "What could have happened?" "I don't know. Something with Zach, maybe?" Lexi hated herself. She wanted to tell the truth, but the thought of losing Mia's friendship terrified her. And what would be the point, really? It had just been a single kiss, not the start of anything. "No, of course not. I'm fine. Everything's fine." "Okay," Mia said, believing her, and that just made Lexi feel worse. "Later." Lexi walked into the ice cream shop. It was brightly lit, with a long glass and chrome ice cream counter and a small area that contained a few tables and chairs. In the warmer months, this place was hopping busy, but now, in mid-October, business was pretty slow. Her boss, Mrs. Salter, was standing at the register when Lexi walked in. A bell tinkled over the door at her entrance. "Hey, Lexi," Mrs. Salter said brightly. "How was your dance?" Lexi forced a smile. "Great. Here, I brought you some necklaces." She held out the Mardi Gras beads from the dance. Mrs. Salter lit up at the sight of them and swooped in like a magpie for the shiny necklaces. "Thank you, Lexi. That was thoughtful of you." Mrs. Salter immediately put all the necklaces around her neck. Lexi spent the rest of the day and into the evening waiting on customers. At 9 o'clock, when business had slowed down to almost nothing, she set about cleaning the counters and getting ready to close up. She was coming out of the back room, carrying a container of Windex and a soggy rag, when Zach walked into the shop. The bell tinkled gaily above him. She could barely hear it over the sudden acceleration of her heartbeat. He never came here alone. Amanda was always with him, hanging on to him like that Louisiana moss you saw in horror flicks. Lexi slipped behind the counter, so there was something between them. "Hi," he said, moving toward her. "Hi, you want ice cream?" He looked at her intently. "Meet me at La Riviere Park tonight." Before she could answer, the bell tinkled again and the door flew open. Amanda rushed into the shop and sidled up to Zach, putting her tantalizing arm around him. "Hey, Lexi! Thanks for keeping an eye on Zach for me. At the dance, I mean." Lexi couldn't smile, even though she wanted to. "You want ice cream?" "No way, it's too fattening," Amanda said. "Come on, Zach, let's go." She moved toward the door. Zach stayed where he was. 10 o'clock, he mouthed. "Please." Lexi's heart was pounding as she watched him follow his girlfriend out of the shop. 10. She would be an idiot to think he really meant for her to meet him at the beach. He was dating Amanda, the human Post-it note. They were the most popular couple in school. And it would hurt Mia if she found out. A kiss at the dance was one thing, almost understandable even, ordinary. This, sneaking out to be with him, would be something else, a bigger lie. Lexi couldn't do it, shouldn't do it. She glanced over at her boss. "Don't do it, Lexi." Mrs. Salter, I was wondering if I could leave a few minutes early, maybe 9:50? "I'm sure I can handle closing up by myself," she said. "Hot date?" Lexi hoped her laughter didn't sound as nervous as it felt. "When have you ever known me to have a hot date? Those boys at your school must be blind, that's all I'm saying." For the remainder of her shift, Lexi refused to think about the decision she'd made. She focused on her job and did it to the best of her ability. It wasn't until later, when she left the shop, that nerves got the best of her. She was an idiot to do this, but she kept walking. Main Street was quiet on this chilly autumn night. Lights glowed through restaurant windows, but there were few patrons at this hour. She passed the brightly lit Island Center grocery store and kept going, past the ferry terminal, past the Windermere real estate office, and the Lil One's nursery school. In less than 5 minutes, she was out of town. Here, black stained the sky. A bright blue moon glowed above the towering treetops. There weren't many houses out this way, and the few that were here were mostly summer homes for Seattleites, and their windows were dark. At the entrance to La Riviere Beach Park, she paused. He wouldn't be here. Still, she followed the winding asphalt road down to the sandy stretch of beach. Moonlight shone on the tangle of giant driftwood piled up on the coarse gray sand. There were no cars in the parking area. Of course there weren't. She walked out to the beach. The pile of giant driftwood, whole trees washed up onto the shore and tangled together, lay like giant toothpicks on the sand. A brightly lit ferry chugged through the sound, looking like a Chinese lantern against the black water. Behind it, the Seattle skyline was a tiara of colored lights. "You're here." She heard Zach's voice and turned. "I didn't see your car," was all she could think to say. "It's at the end of the other lot." He took her by the hand and led her to a place where he had a blanket spread out on the sand. "I guess you've brought a few girls here," she said nervously. She needed to remember that. What was special for her was ordinary for him. He sat down and pulled her gently down beside him. She immediately took her hand back. She couldn't be smart when he was touching her, and she needed to be smart. This was her best friend's brother. He said, "Look at me, Lexi, please." And she was helpless to resist. He tucked a curly strand of hair behind her ear. It was the gentlest touch she'd ever felt, and it made her want to cry. "I know we shouldn't be together. Do you want to be, though?" "I shouldn't," she said quietly. She closed her eyes, unable to look at him. In the darkness, she heard his breath, felt it against her lips, and all she could think about was how often she'd been hurt. Lexi thought about her druggo mom, who told her all the time how much she loved her. She'd hold Lexi so tightly Lexi couldn't breathe, and then suddenly it would be over. Her mom would get pissed and storm off and forget she even had a daughter. The only time Lexi remembered ever being happy before Pine Island was her mother went to prison. Lexi had been with a nice family then, the Rexlers, and they'd tried to make her feel as if she belonged. Then her mother had come back. Usually, Lexi tried not to remember those last days with her mother, when Mama had been high all the time and pissed off and mean. Lexi had learned the truth about love then, how close it could be to hate, and how it could empty you out. "Mia's friendship means everything to me," she said, finally looking at him. She saw how her words hurt him, and she understood at last. All that hostility of his, all that looking away, it had been an act. "You pretended not to like me because of Mia." "From the start," he said with a sigh. "I wanted to ask you out, but you were already her friend, so I stayed away. Or I tried to. I never could, though, not really. And then, when you tried to kiss me—" Lexi's heart felt like taking flight. How was it possible that she could be so happy and so sad at the same time? "We shouldn't talk about this anymore. We should just forget about it. I couldn't lose Mia or your family. I couldn't. I've already been hurt enough, you know?" "You think I haven't already thought all of that?" "Jack, please." "I can't stop it anymore, Lex. I've been thinking about you for 3 years. Maybe if you hadn't kissed me back—" "I shouldn't have." "But you did." "I had to," she said quietly. It was impossible to lie to him. How could she? She had loved him from the second she first saw him. She started to smile and thought about her teeth and bit her lip. "I love your smile," he said, leaning toward her. She felt the distance between them closing, smelled the peppermint of his breath. The kiss started slowly, gently. She felt his tongue touch hers, and her heart seemed to take flight. When he took her in his arms, she gave up, gave in. The kiss went on, deepening until she thought she couldn't stand for it to end. Behind them, the waves whooshed along the shore, and it became a song. Their song, their sound. Desire came from somewhere deep inside of her, radiating outward, tingling, aching. She started to tremble so hard he drew back, looked at her. "Are you okay?" "No," she wanted to say. "No, I'm not." But when she saw herself reflected in his eyes, she was ruined. She wanted him with a ferocity that terrified her. It was dangerous to want anything in this life, but his love maybe most of all. "I'm fine," she lied. "Just cold." He pulled her into his arms. "Can we come here again tomorrow night?" They were going down a bad road here. She should hit the brakes now. Tell him it was too bad that they loved each other and let it go. Now, while she still could. She should tell him no, say she wouldn't do anything to jeopardize her friendship with Mia. But when she looked at him, she had no strength to turn him away. He made everything inside of her stop hurting. Dangerous, Lexi, she thought. Say no. Think of your best friend and what matters. But when he kissed her again, she whispered, "Okay."